In almost every TV series, there is a moment. Usually this moment can be found in an early episode. It could be a dramatic scene or a quiet one, and it might exemplify what the show becomes or what it might have been. It's a moment I'm going to call the mission statement, and in this video I'm going to look at 3 such moments and discuss them in relation to my experience with the series as a whole. So there are mild spoilers ahead for Breaking Bad, Death Note and The Walking Dead. I'm going to start with Breaking Bad. As a series, it's been discussed to death. People have picked apart every shot of its opening episode, and the costume design throughout the series described in agonizing detail. The meaning behind the titles of each episode has been argued over to the point that even making a video on the series feels a little redundant. As such, I'm going to discuss what no one else can, and that's my personal reaction to it, specifically to a moment in its 3rd episode, the mission statement. The particular scene I describe as the mission statement is very much a part of the episode as a whole, and I don't want to reduce the significance of that episode by focusing exclusively on one scene, but in that one scene my view of the series switched from "this is pretty good TV" to "this is something special." The scene I'm referring to is this shot of Walter White reassembling a broken plate. Obviously it's nothing amazing by itself, but the way it fits into the episode, how it communicates what comes next, and what it means for Walter and Crazy 8 is where, for me at least, Breaking Bad declared its intentions. This was a show that let you make the connections the characters did. A series where one small moment could have huge implications, and one that went into the motivations behind a scene rather than just showing the scene itself. See here how much time is dedicated to Walt making a sandwich, how that low intensity scene is paid off as he passes out, and just when you think it was insignificant to the narrative as a whole, we have the aforementioned scene, the aforementioned mission statement. Breaking Bad was a brilliant series, but it was in this scene that I first realised just how brilliant it could be, and indeed how brilliant it ultimately was. Next up, we've got Death Note. This one's a little tricky to illustrate because it's basically all in the audio. If the Breaking Bad scene was rooted in the visuals, then this one is definitely rooted in the audio. I'm talking about the introduction of L shortly after the death of Lind L. Taylor. This occurs in episode 2, by which time Light has already been established as being particularly smart. There's only been one instance of Light losing his cool thus far, and that comes at the hands of a literal god. So between his age, pre-existing intelligence, and newfound power, Light comes across as pretty smug. So to see him baited into making a rash decision, and then called out for that decision, is incredibly satisfying.
I'll tell you something that I think you'll find interesting. Although this was announced as a worldwide broadcast, the truth is, we are only broadcasting in the Kanto region of Japan. I had planned to broadcast this message around the world until we found you, but it looks like that won't be necessary. I now know where you are.
It's for this moment I always tell people new to Death Note to watch the first 2 episodes back to back, to see Light shown up in the way he is, as well as the introduction to the series' best character, don't at me, you know it, in the space of a minute, is what the show is actually about. Rapid character development and swift consequences define this moment, and this moment defines the series as a whole. Admittedly, I do find this scene becomes a tad melodramatic when Light and L both say, I am justice! But slight quibbles aside, this was when Death Note first excited me, something it managed to do many times thereafter. Finally, we come to The Walking Dead. Perhaps no other pilot has shown as much potential as that of The Walking Dead. While Breaking Bad offered a pilot that was technically much better without the slightly awkward performances, and half-speed slow motion that does mark The Walking Dead's first episode, it showed idea after idea, scene after scene that excited me for what was to come. The joy of a hot shower was palpable, the suggestions of some semblance of a person left in a dead body eerie, and its ambition remains almost entirely unmatched. If the specific moment I pick out as the mission statement wasn't there, then any number of other scenes would fit the bill nicely. This shot remains one of the most iconic in any TV series I've seen. The music used in this sequence in opposition to the imagery was fantastic. And the way it set up small questions like, where are the hospital staff?
Nurse, help! Nurse, help!
And offered answers later. Was really well done. It felt like the team had an idea and the money and drive to pull it off. It was genuinely exciting to see this sort of narrative given the budget it demanded, and I was really excited to see where it could go. The whole episode was excellent, but no sequence excited me more than the intercut shots of Rick and Morgan killing and trying to kill a walker. This sequence with Rick is surprisingly moving, but it's these shots of Morgan and his dead wife that I loved. Whether there is any recognition in her face is unclear, but it is clear that's what Morgan is trying not to see. He's desperate for her to look away, but even when she does, he can't pull the trigger. This, of all the mission statements I mentioned thus far, is by a long shot my favourite. This is one of my favourite sequences in a TV series, perhaps my absolute favourite. This is one hell of a mission statement, but unlike those in Breaking Bad or Death Note or countless others I didn't mention for the sake of time, like those in Kill la Kill or Avatar: The Last Airbender, this was a statement of intention that the series just couldn't fulfill. Season 1 never had a better moment than this one, and subsequent seasons, well, others have dissected what became of the later seasons in discussions pretty brutal, but not unfair. Suffice to say, there is no other pilot I think of as highly as The Walking Dead's, but no other series has so utterly failed to deliver on the promise of that pilot. To be fair, I think the first season as a whole is still really solid, and the loss of the original showrunner in Darabont mid-season 2 and an increased episode count with a decreased budget no doubt had a major impact on the second season, which largely and unfortunately set the tone for the following seasons. While there are some positives to those later seasons, like Carol, whom I love, and Michonne, who, while perhaps a little less interesting than she might have been, remains an easy second best to Carol, there are so many missteps and utterly boring characters like Daryl, a character who I admittedly only really bring up because I want to rile up any Walking Dead fanboys that have stuck around to this point, that I only stick with it because of the last vestiges of excitement the pilot engendered. I know it will never reach the peaks the pilot promised, but I still hold out a little hope that one day it might bring me a moment even half as memorable as this one. So, sorry if you're a Walking Dead fan. I was perhaps a little mean-spirited there, but I only come down so hard on the later seasons for the brilliance of its pilot. Whether you're a member of the Daryl Dixon Dick Riding Association and want to tear me a new one in the comments, or just want to talk about the moment in your favourite shows that excited you as much as these ones did, I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, let me know in the comments below. Oh, and I normally don't do this, but the next video is going to be about Hollow Knight. So if you like Metroidvanias and entomology, the next video is going to be right up your alley. I'm about halfway through gathering footage, and I've almost finished the first draft of the script. But if you've got something you think I should look at, let me know. It might just make it into the video. Cheers! Have a good one.